Hello and a warm welcome to another episode of the Coaching Outdoors podcast. I'm Anna Marie, your host for today, and I am going to be flying solo, unfortunately. Alex was due to dial in from the west coast of Scotland, though we have been ravaged by Storm Bert and her internet is down. And Paul is tied up in a team coaching conversation with a client. So we thought we would just go with the flow, and I am very much delighted to welcome Paola Fabbri from Italy today, and we are going to be diving into her nature-connected coaching work with an artistic flair as well. So, Paola, welcome. Just a quick introduction to yourself as to how would you describe yourself if you were missing somebody.
Thank you very much for having me in this podcast, which is a wonderful space to be. So, brief introduction about myself. I'm a professional coach. I am specialized in eco-somatic coaching and nature coaching. And I'm also a trainer, facilitator, and an artist. And I have an international background. I studied, lived, and worked across 4 continents. And I worked for 25 years in humanitarian sector, humanitarian development sector. And now I am coaching, I am training, I deliver experiential trainings and immersion, and I facilitate immersion in nature, and I coach.
Love a portfolio work style of different projects on the go, and we will have time to dive more into your speciality later. Though to start off with, it is our classic tried and tested question that we ask all our guests who are kind enough to give their time and share their expertise with us. So it's a bit of a two-parter. So the first bit is, what is your earliest memory of being outdoors? Followed very quickly after by, why do you love the outdoors or nature so much?
Yeah, so two memories. My father was born and grew up in the mountains between Bologna and Florence. And that's an area where, when I was a child, we spent a lot of time, and we were spending a lot of time in the summer there. So the first memory is of me playing under a huge chestnut tree with a cat. And that was the garden of my grandmother and uncle's house. And I think that when the adults were having adults conversation inside the house, I was sneaking out and always going to that spot. And for me, it felt really like a safe heaven, a place where I could just go, be undisturbed and play. And the energy of that tree was just amazing. It's a huge tree, still there. It's a huge tree, it's really majestic, and was like really feeling a safe space where I could just be and be completely undisturbed and do my things and play. And the second one, it's always in the same spot. Both my grandmother and my father are from the same place. And whenever we were leaving the place and coming back to the city, my grandmother was taking me aside and telling me that we should take a moment to greet the mountains. And so we were sitting together, and she was really taking time to say individually to each mountain, to greet individually each mountain. And for me, that really, I think, has really stuck with me. And is this idea of relating to nature and to nature elements as if they were relatives that you were not going to see for a while, and so you had to pay respect and greet them. And this sense of having a relationship also with individual natural elements, whether it's a tree or a mountain, I think has really somehow remained in my consciousness, and it's really part of the approach that I use in my work now, and what I bring in my work. And to answer the second part of the question, why I like so much being in nature, I think there's many things that I like about being in nature. But probably two things that are incredibly important for me is that sense of freedom that I feel when I'm in nature. I think there is something that awakens in me, something like connected to be in contact with something wild outside that reawaken something very alive inside of me. So it's this sense of aliveness. And the other thing is this sense of connectedness that I think when I'm in nature, I feel I'm somehow losing my small human self and finding the connection with something much bigger. So it is really those two things that are very important for me.
Mm. And I've had the pleasure of asking or hearing the response to this question for nearly 4 years now, and over 75 guests have shared, and the patterns that come through around relationship with trees, these big sentient beings that as a child we just approach and revere with so much wonder, and how much of that an impression that can make. And I'd really just love to signpost a conversation we had recently with a former guest, Jackie Holder, who does a lot of work with trees in London, and her relationship and how that comes through. And you transported me to the mountains, and I will hands up, for me, the mountains are my environment. I love to be held by just this solid, big, grounded presence of these inspiring peaks. And for me, Chamonix is my mountain home, and I was there almost with your grandmother next to me, and we were greeting, the Aiguille de Midi and Mont Blanc. And it's being in relationship, um,
Yeah.
as a small human being, as you said.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's really a relationship. It's having a relationship with the land and with the individual elements of the land. I think it makes really a difference.
So for you, I would love to go into this artistic space and creativity. I think this is why we wanted you to come on the podcast, to really explore. We haven't had anyone who combines artistic, creative in this way. So really kind of curious to discover more about this in your work. Though, where did your artistic and creative journey start? And what does it mean to you?
Hmm. Um, so for me, I think art is a space of freedom and expression. So it's a place where I go to listen to myself, to explore, to just be completely free. So that's always been like that, and it's been a unique journey because I started in 2007, and I was in Uganda then. And at that time, I did not paint for maybe many years. So maybe from primary school, I had not painted. And I remember one morning I woke up and I had this huge urge to paint something blue. And I had absolutely nothing to paint with me. So the first time I went on holiday, I passed by this very large art supply shop, and I just wandered in, not knowing exactly what is that I was looking for because I had really not idea how to paint. And I remember thinking, as a kid, I used to have watercolors. So I found this box that was called Watercolors for Dummies. And and I bought that box and a large watercolor pad. And for a while, everything I could paint was just blue strips on that pad. But I never stopped painting. And so over the years, I started learning from other artists and exploring and practicing a lot. And so my painting has become a personal practice. So for me, it really is a place where I go to discover, listen, tune in, and express. And in 2020, I was painting, and I started realizing that my body was physically responding to what was happening on the canvas. So that was intriguing. And so I started to pay more attention. And then when I was studying with the Nature Coaching Academy, I kind of started to bring everything together, because the approach that we were using was very embodied, and it was about the connection with the body and connection with nature. So it was easy to try to connect that with what I was already experiencing through my painting process. And that led to the creation of eco-somatic painting, which is a way to create a dialogue between the body, nature, outside, and bringing everything on the canvas, and is really based on this deep listening that you can experience through these techniques.
I just find it fascinating, the fact that there's just such a gap in your life and you rediscovered painting in 2007, like from primary school. And, you know, whether you're listening or watching into this, just taking a moment to consider your relationship with art. And, you know, for me, I remember casting mine back to secondary school, and I loved art. Um, and my art teacher was vicious and very much categorically told me that I did not have sufficient talent to pass my GCSEs, um, and just not even to consider it as a pathway forward, which was disappointing. And my father as well, as you know, as much as I love him, was very much, you know, art, you want to be doing like a proper subject like German or Latin. So it is just tracing that back and having your connection with creativity and art, and like, what does that bring through? And I'm very much, the word at the moment I'm sensing from our conversation is freedom. That freedom in nature, and that freedom in your artistic practice. And, you know, very much you have blended these together. And I'd love to go a little bit more into your coach training. You know, I understand that you studied with Diana Tedoldi, who is one of our early guests. And I remember meeting Diana in 2019 in Prague at the ICF Converge, and she's been a real massive trailblazer and kindly supported our in-person event at Henley Business School, and is set to come back in 2025. So would be curious to know a little bit more about your experience of the course, and then how that has influenced your practice as a coach, and then putting the creativity piece into it. And clearly this whole element of being embodied in relationship with self.
Yeah. So yeah, Diana is a force of nature. So it's the course that I took with the Nature Coaching Academy and with Diana was absolutely foundational for me. It was a time of my life where I really wanted to be much, much more embodied and have much more connection with nature. I was really trying to find ways to do that. So when I found that course, for me, it was like perfect. And then on top of that, I was also looking for a coaching training, but I wanted a coaching training that was really aligned with my values and my passions. So again, it was a perfect fit for me to find that course. And Diana brings together embodiment and nature, and the entire approach is, I think, based on a collaboration with nature. So what we were saying before, relating to nature has not just a setting. So we're not just taking the practice outside, which in itself is wonderful and beautiful, but it's also going one step further and really looking at your body itself as part of nature, and nature outside as a co-facilitator in the coaching conversation. So for me, that was very beautiful. And so when I took the training, I started to take also this experience into the groups that I was leading, and it's extremely powerful. The nature is really opening up spaces that were absolutely powerful and amazing to see the results. And then this really laid the foundation for my coaching work. And I think pretty much everything I do now is based on nature connection and embodiment. So this has become, really a foundational part of my work. And as I mentioned earlier, also has contributed to the evolution of my own painting practice. So foundational.
So pulling on the painting piece of it and the clients that you work with, whether they're individual or groups, when they come to you, where are they at with the prospect of you being creative and painting?
Different places. I think the experience that you were describing earlier of having an art teacher that was not very supportive, to put it mildly, is a very, very common experience. So there are people that have what I call art scars. Because I think we are all extremely, I mean, creativity and art are part of our human experience. We have been creating art since the dawn of time, and so it's really part of us. Is I think so natural. As a kid, we paint, we dance, we sing, and we are somehow talked out of it, educated out of it. But it's very natural human experience to do this kind of artistic activities. So how I bring that into the coaching practice, it depends very much on how people are at and what do they need. So in terms of individual coaching practice, is something that is always available if it's supportive to the person journey. And so I think 98% of the time, the connection with body and with nature is there and is a starting point for me. And then the art or the painting part or the creativity part, if you want, not always painting, can be added to the journey if it's supportive to the client journey. And sometimes is, and sometimes is not suitable, and that's okay. In groups coaching, it's very different because usually I have groups and the process is structured around questions or topics that we are exploring in the group. And usually there is a first part of connection with nature, eco-somatic practices embodied. And then we conclude the experience with a painting. And in that case, I think there is an element of freedom that people feel in the group. And a lot of people are expressing or telling me that actually the connection with nature and the fact that they had this first part of the experience first makes them feel very free, and they can get rid of the self-judgment and I feel much more free to express than on the canvas. So in group setting is a bit different. And then I also have a group coaching process that are more focused on painting. And this, of course, attracts people that are more into the painting practice. So, for instance, I have a group coaching that is focused on connection with tree. And as part of that process, people is 4 weeks, and people paint a painting throughout the 4 weeks, which evolves, and is a painting that they paint in relation with nature, so in connection with a specific tree. So very different ways to bring that in.
And thank you for sharing the different ways you take this, whether it is individual, whether it is a group, whether it is over a period of time. And I think for me, what's coming through is the process. And actually the product at the end, like the painting, doesn't really matter. And within that, how people relate to the product at the end of it. Just kind of curious as to what you've observed, whether there's an affinity or a pride or yeah.
Yeah. Generally, I think it's very easy and liberating for people to paint this way, because it's getting rid of all the baggages that you normally have about the judgment of I have to produce something very beautiful. So it's not about the product; it's really about staying in the process and using the painting as a way of exploring more and expressing more about what is already coming out in the coaching conversation. And very often the painting becomes something precious because it is a reflection of the journey that the person has taken. And it can also be a very powerful visual reminder of the insights that you had during the coaching session. So in many cases, it's actually something that people keep keep in their space because it's very meaningful, not necessarily because it's a masterpiece, but because it's very meaningful to them. And also it can be a reminder of decisions that have come through the coaching process, and then steps that you want to take. And so it's a visual reminder of that, and it's very powerful.
I'm really sensing this, being held by nature, and then there's the embodied kinesthetic processing as you go through, and the questions that you're asking as well. And almost, particularly if they're on that 3-week program, the shifts that happen in between as well, and then they come back to their canvas and what might have changed. And then at the end of it, having that as an anchor, and often within nature connected or outdoor coaching, whether you take a picture of it or you maybe take a rock, or it's that tangible connection to, and the fact that you have created this piece, whether it's then displayed on your wall, is just that little nudge, that little reminder.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the details more. And coaches, it's always a privilege to have a real insight into someone else's practice, and we always caveat this with confidentiality, and we really, really want to respect the work that you do. And we would love to just have a narrative, have a story of a case study of a client you've worked with, maybe a couple of clients. That would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of stories. So the first one, it was individual coaching sessions that I was having outdoors with a client. And we were having, the conversation was around finding more space, calm, was about the to-do list and how to manage that. And so at some point, I asked the person to see if there was a natural element that was calling his attention. it took a moment to really look and feel the area. And then he told me that there was a cow that was attracting his attention. So we dived in the reason why he was attracted to the cow, and for him was the cow was really embodying the qualities that he wanted to have more at that point. So it was about calm, it was about presence, was about creating space, was about being unmovable. So all these really quality that he felt very much the cow was representing. And so we used this image with symbolism of the cow throughout several sessions after that. And we created an embodied, also embodied movement for him to really take these qualities and feel them in the body. And then we also created a visual image of the cow. And that was a way to explore even further these qualities. And as I was saying earlier, is something that was kept then in the space, because it was really a visual reminder of, okay, I want this quality, and now I can also see them. And every time I see them, I'm reminded of the things that I want to bring more in my life. So that was one. And then in another group coaching process, that is the one I was talking about earlier, that is throughout 4 weeks and is about connection with trees. So I had so what we do in that program is that we create eco-somatic routines for the people to then take the practice outside and practice on their own in connection with trees. And these in parallel, what happens is the people start to take everything that they are experiencing in connection with trees, and they let it flow on the canvas. And this painting evolves, so it's not static, but it really evolves over the period of 4 weeks. So one of the participants, and it's very intuitive, so it's not something that we decide, that is decided before you have to draw these, or you decide rationally that you want to create a specific picture. So you just really let things flow on the canvas and evolve naturally. So the first thing that this person put on the canvas was a scar. And then over the 4 weeks, this scar became a life-giving line in a big tree that she was painting on this canvas. And so it was really a transformation from a scar to something that was giving life. And for her, this was extremely empowering and extremely healing. And then, yeah, it became a painting that was extremely meaningful and important for her to have in their space. And another message that she got from the same process, from the same training, because she was connecting not just with one tree, but with a group of birch trees. She also came to think about the power of community and the importance of not having to do everything yourself, but being able to ask for help. And so these, yeah, how to integrate the two. If you have time, I also have another example.
Oh, I'm not going to say no to another example. Go for it. Thank you.
So in another group setting again, we were working near a group of cedar trees. And it was the time of the year when the cicada are shedding the skin. So one of the tree was really full of these skins of cicada. And one of the participants really felt that did not want to be in that space, was she felt disturbed and she felt kind of sense of pain in that situation. And then in the coaching conversation, she connected that to a specific situation in her life where she felt that was painful and she needed to take the distance from. And then we also concluded the experience with the painting where she felt that it really helped to sort of bring everything together and process.
And particularly that last example that you share, when somebody is unexpectedly triggered, and then there is a group as well. As a coach, how did you manage the psychological safety, the emotional dynamic, the complexities of the relationship between the different participants, and for you as well, managing your state? So curious just to unpack that a little bit further, if you're willing.
Yeah, I think generally, in my experience, the group setting helps with these dynamics because the group really is a container, is a safe container, and depends how you set up the group, how you hold the space, of course. But in general, in my experience, the group is very supportive in this kind of situation, and I think that people feel they can share this experience also because they feel safe in that particular group, because otherwise it wouldn't come up. So I think it's a combination of you as a container and how you really hold the space for the people, and how the group sort of embrace this kind of emotions that can come up as a natural part of the process.
And then for you, as you leave that process and container, how do you then look after yourself and resource yourself?
Yeah, I think I've learned to trust. I've learned to trust myself, and I've learned to trust the process. And yeah, not to feel overwhelmed. I think I now feel that I have enough. I'm strong enough to hold this kind of situation and of emotions. So I'm not worried. I'm not scared about emotions coming up. And so I think I am present. I'm there. I'm not. Yeah, I think it probably is about presence. It's about being able to be there anyway.
And it's this coach maturation and evolution as a coach, and particularly when you're working in the outdoor space with an element of nature connection, and you're bringing in the artistic elements of it as well. And anyone who's listening in to this, how you hold the space, how you weave the coaching and the nature connection, how you co-facilitate, how you extend an invitation and make it's invitational, and maybe sometimes your clients will be like, no, that's not for me, and that's a part of it.
Absolutely, that is always the part of it, and that's what I was saying also at the beginning. It's something that is available to you, but you don't have to accept the invitation. So and I think this is very much also part of what we have to do as coaches. It's in a way is always an invitation. It's not that we are so we are facilitating a conversation, and but the client is always in the driving seat. So it's not that we are giving tools to the client. So it's something that is available that they can try if they want to. And it's something that I personally make clear both in individual settings, if it's one-on-one coaching, that I have a number of tools and I might be offering some embodied practice or suggested practices or nature connection practice or artistic practice, but it depends. It's up to them. So it's not that they have to accept everything that I suggest. And that's the beauty of, I think, yeah, individual journeys that people are on. And in the group setting is pretty much the same. So in the group setting is more structured, but of course, at the beginning, I would say the same thing, that there's going to be a process, and so we're going to suggest things, but everybody needs to take care of himself. And so whatever is suggested, if it works for you, you do it, but otherwise you can always regulate yourself and step out from a practice if you don't want to do it, or if it's not functional for you in that moment.
And it's those two words, it depends. And Paul and I were recording a conversation with George Warren yesterday, and we had quite a dive into it depends. And you know, as coaches, it's so context rich, and that's what I love about the beauty of coaching is like, I don't know, like I don't know where we're going. We're going on this journey together, and it depends on so many different factors, and it's the complexity and the depth and the richness of it that makes it, I know, exciting and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where's the edge? Where's the stretch
Yeah.
zone? Where's
Yeah.
the challenge? And I want to just segue into this piece around challenge. And for you, as you've been on your artistic and your coaching journey, and within your humanitarian work beforehand, the challenges that you faced, you know, what maybe was the biggest or the couple of biggest challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them? Or maybe you didn't overcome them. And then, well, what was the lesson that you learned along the way, or lesson?
Yeah. No, I think it's very much connected to what we were just discussing. And for me, it's really about trust, learning to trust the process, to trust yourself, and to trust the client. That is, it's probably the most challenging part of coaching. So for me, it's really about remembering that as much as we want good outcomes and progress for the coachee, it is not our journey; it's the coachee's journey. And and I think it's important to remember that and to get out of the way and to remember that we are there to hold the space for the coachee to have his own journey, to allow the coachee to have his own journey. And I think nature helps a lot with that. Because it's a constant reminder that you can't force things, that things unfold in their own time, and when and nothing can be forced in nature. So seasons can be speed up. You can't speed up winter to get to the spring. And there is particularly one metaphor that I really, really like to use for coaching, which is the butterfly getting out of the cocoon. So I don't know if you know that, but the butterfly cannot be helped out of the cocoon because it's the actual struggle as she goes through to break the chrysalis that strengthened her wings. And if you try to help her out, the butterfly dies. So for me, this is a fantastic metaphor for coaching because it really is a reminder of the importance of holding the space but allowing the coachee to make his own journey. And it's not an easy lesson, I think, because we do want, sincerely, we want to see progress and we want good outcome for the coachee. And it's important to remember that it's not our answers, it's the coachee that has his own best answers. And we're there to facilitate, to help the coachee to find them.
I am loving the butterfly, and I'm just picturing your page on the Coaching Outdoors podcast website, what the image for this episode is going to be. And I was like, okay, is it trees? And we've had a number of other guests who've had trees, and no, there will be a butterfly. We will hunt a butterfly out, and then that can be the image, the metaphor for that, for your conversation with us. And thank you for that. And lessons from nature are so rich.
Yeah.
When we pause and are curious and ask questions, and then actually what can we learn from nature? And it really is cycling back to this being in relationship with nature and being curious and asking questions and bringing it back. And, as human beings, as a species, we've lost so much of our inherent wisdom and our nature connectedness, and we're so disassociated and disconnected and divorced in so many ways that it's a lot of like remembering and relearning within it.
Yeah.
So the future, what does the future hold for you, for your coaching?
So, more of the same. No, I think one very important aspect that has been very important for me for a while, and I think is particularly important in this moment, is community. I think it's becoming essential to be more in community, to find ways to help each other, to find nurturing communities. And this is also the reason why I am continuing to create containers for groups and work with groups, because I really believe in the power of communities and working also as a group. So I will continue to have group work in addition to my one-on-one work with clients, and I'm having a couple of group coaching programs that will start in beginning of 2025, and one will be around seasons, so how we can harness the qualities of the season, what can we learn, and bring more of the insight and the learnings from really tuning into the seasons in our own life. And then I will also have again the course, not course, but the container on a connection with tree that is very much linking eco-somatic painting and coaching.
And with that question as well, I'm kind of conscious when I ask it sometimes, it's like, well, what are your future plans? And for some people, it's like, I love what I do. But does there always have to be, the more, and your response there? It's like, well, the same but more. And it's keeping that essence of it going. And, we've had a number of guests who have just been so content with where they're at, and actually, keep doing what you're doing. There doesn't always have to be a big grandiose plan. The next project and the next initiative. And just forgive me just for doing a bit of a U-turn here. And it comes back to the practicalities of it. And I'm just how this is managed. And often from some of the newer coaches, we get questions around like the practicalities of going outdoors. I mean, clearly I'm based in the southwest of England, you're in Italy. There's a slight potentially climate difference going on, but even so, I'm still imagining you heading outdoors with canvases and paintbrushes and paint. And yeah, how is all of this managed?
Very different ways. So if it's a one-on-one coaching, usually I keep it very simple if we are outdoors. So it can be very simple exercises or practices that we do even just with a pen or pencil or marker. So it doesn't need to be a huge canvas that we're bringing outdoor. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Uh, in uh, in certain group settings, we do bring all the paints out, and so it would be like this is typically like several hours. So there will be like moments of eco-somatic practices, connection with nature, discussions, conversations, and then there is a moment of painting. And usually that is done in like a circle of people, very often in nature. So it's in the field or in a field or in the midst of woods or wherever, but in connection with the natural elements. And then I also do that online. So the group coaching that I was talking about, that is about trees, is actually done online, which sounds a bit counterintuitive. But it's about having people developing their own practice and then going outside and practice. So it's giving them the tools, establishing that connection, and then meeting again and sharing, and then developing that on the canvas. But that one is online. Then that can be also done in a seminar in person. But yeah, there is also the online setting. So very different ways.
And that versatility of it as well is, how can it be adapted? And I'm still having this image of, I don't know, you up some mountain with a load of easels and massive big canvases.
Not quite like that, but more like with bottles of paints and paper. Yes.
Mm. No, and all food for thought. And dear listener, for you, how is this landing? What are you taking away? We're always curious to hear your thoughts, and whether this sparks an interest and a new avenue, because ultimately you're the first coach that I've spoken with within this space who is working within this space. And I'm sure there's more out there. I've not stumbled across them. So if this is something that you're doing already, like, please again, do you reach out? And I'm sure you would love to know how other people might be taking this, or in the future, if this is interesting. And again, this is what I love about the nature connected outdoor coaching community, is the collaboration and the support within the coaches, and how willingly people are to give their time and to share their wisdom and their expertise, because our work is sorely needed. And with that in mind, if you could offer our listeners one piece of advice in developing their future coaching, what would that be?
But, for me, I think that the incredible advantage of conducting having coaching sessions outdoors and in connection with nature is tremendous. And I would really encourage people to try it out to see the difference. For me, there is an incredible advantage in terms of flow of the session. So how the sessions that I do in outside and connection with nature flow, and the impact of the sessions. So if somebody has not done that, I would really encourage that to try it out. To try it out, maybe first experimenting, and then see how they can take it further. And then if there is something that they are very passionate about, I would also encourage people to try to really see if it can be incorporated into the coaching practice. So like in my case, I'm passionate about painting, but there can be people passionate about other things that might be also an instrumental tool for coaching.
Thank you. And bringing it to resources, what resources would you recommend?
So in terms of nature connection, pretty much everything by John Young. I don't know if you know him, but it is absolutely amazing. And so he's written books. He has a TED Talk that people can look up. He has an online community and a podcast. So pretty much everything by him on nature connection is really amazing and foundational. Highly recommended. And then, of course, in terms of eco-somatic practices and nature coaching, I will say that Diana is an amazing resource. So people can check out the Nature Coaching Academy. There is also a free resource on nature coaching that can download from the website. There are a couple of books that I think are also very interesting for people that are interested in the connection between art and nature. There is a book of Andrea Olsen, Body and Earth. And it's a fantastic book because she really brings together biology, science, meditation, and artistic expression. And there are also practices. So it's like 21 days. Is divided in chapters, and for each chapter there is also a practice that people can. She's a dancer, but it's really interesting to see how she brings everything together. And then there is a book called Mirrors in the Earth by Asia Suller that is not specific on coaching, but I think is an incredible resource for coaches that are interested in using nature connection for coaching, because she really invites to reflect on what nature is mirroring to us and how can we use that for our own development, growth. And I think that's lots of ideas and insight there also for coaching.
No, that is perfect. And thank you for those books. They sound different. We've not come across them before. And all resources as ever are signposted through your episode page. So listener, watcher, if this has piqued your interest, go and check them out. We will also tag in John Young. His work is seminal and has influenced people around the world. Like, he's just an absolute driving force. And I mean, definitely shout out to Diana, who facilitated this connection, is the reason that we're having the conversation today, and has very much inspired your work and what you do. And again, I think that is just a real illustration of the ripple effect of how Diana is sharing her work. You're taking it, you're bringing in your passion, you're blending it, you're moving forwards. So it really is this ongoing evolution. And I'm just excited where we're going to be going as a community in the next 5, 10, 15 years. I really think it's been gaining momentum. And looking ahead, I think we're at a real kind of turning point. And anyone who's listening and watching in, like, you're a part of this. How are you going to take this and really own it and step into it authentically and blend it with your life story, your experience, your skills, and who can you support, and how can nature be brought in, also be in service to nature, which is a huge other part of it as well. So, Paola, where can our listeners discover more about you and your work and connect?
So on my website, www.paolafabbri.net, and they can on the home page there is a free resource that they can download, and is a good example of how you can weave together nature connection and coaching. Is a practice that they can do outside, and then there are coaching questions that can be downloaded. And then I am on social media. I am on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Instagram, I am under Bologna Creativa 16, so it's a bit more tricky maybe.
And I'm sure there will be people reaching out for a conversation. And if this is something that you're curious about, please do. I'm always blown away by the connections that are facilitated through the conversations that myself, Alex, and Paul have, and how people are willing to give their time and their support. So do reach out to Paola and get in touch. Well, all that really remains for me to say today is thank you so much for your time and sharing your journey and the insights into your coaching as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know that Alex and Paul will be listening in and really drawing from our conversation. It's always a shame when I have to kind of fly solo, and they have been very much with me here in spirit, in presence as well. And a big thank you to you for taking time in your day for listening in, whether you have been driving, you might have been out and about walking, you might have just been chilling, having a cup of tea. And your thoughts, please share, please reach out. And anyone that you would like to see featured, who we've not interviewed yet, please do let us know. We're always on the lookout for guests. We're really keen to have a big, diverse range from around the world, different types of coaching, different generations, different genders. So we're really trying to be as inclusive as possible. And we can't do that all ourselves. So this is kind of sharing across the network, like who do you want us to have conversations with? So recommendations, please. If you are a first time listener, thank you for discovering us, and please go back and check out some of the other 70 plus episodes that are online and have been recorded. Whether you start from the beginning and work your way through, or whether you just dip in over the last 4 years, please do. There is an absolute treasure trove of gold out there of coaches, practitioners, and beyond coaching as well. I feel it's really important that we go beyond coaching to seek inspiration for our work as well. And if you have not come across our event at Henley Business School, you are in for a treat. We had our inaugural one in July 2024, and we have the second one lined up in June 25. So we've shifted the date slightly. And this time it's going to be a 2-day event. So it's a 2-day outdoor nature connected coaching festival full of our former guests who are coming and kindly facilitating workshops to really showcase their work. So it'll be an amazing, amazing experience. And ultimately, when we get coaches together in the room, we cannot but have a fantastic time, particularly when it's going to be overnight and there will be chance to really just bed in and connect further. So would love to see you there. Tickets are available through the Henley Business School website. So other than that, I just want to extend a big, big thank you again to Paola. And wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing next, please enjoy and have fun.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
So if you enjoyed what you've heard, like it, share across your network, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and LinkedIn community page, the Coaching Outdoor Podcast. Thanks so much in advance for your support.